"We are not here to negotiate your innocence," Daniel Mercer said. "We are here to give you one chance to surrender." His voice never rose, yet every translator in the Galactic Concord chamber repeated the sentence with perfect clarity. I was Ambassador Lyra Venn, senior legal representative of the Concord, and I had spent more than 20 years ending wars before fleets could fire. Until that moment, I believed the most dangerous person in any negotiation was the one who shouted. Daniel stood alone at the center of the chamber in a charcoal gray diplomatic uniform, unarmored and surrounded by 12 Varkesh officers in black command suits. Across the long table, Grand Marshal Calvor rested both hands on polished metal and smiled as though New Horizon had been a minor border dispute instead of a civilian colony that had suddenly gone silent. Daniel placed a compact evidence core on the table. Blue light unfolded above it, revealing evacuation records, hospital coordinates, civilian identification signals, and the command authorization used during the attack. The final signature belonged to Kale. "A tactical error," the Grand Marshal said. "The Dominion is prepared to discuss compensation and revise territorial access." Daniel looked at the projection. That order identified civilian shelters. "War creates unfortunate confusion." This was not confusion. I activated the formal peace protocol before the exchange could harden further. Representative Mercer, the Concord recognizes the seriousness of these records, but the Dominion has agreed to preliminary talks. A negotiated withdrawal may save lives. Daniel turned toward me. His gray-blue eyes showed no anger. That made his answer harder to dismiss. "Release every prisoner. Leave New Horizon. Deliver the officers who approved the attack. Then the talks can begin." Kale leaned back. "You mistake accusation for leverage. 700 Varkesh ships control the system. Earth has 40 vessels close enough to respond." Daniel nodded once. "Then you should surrender before the others arrive." Several Varkesh officers laughed. The one seated nearest the evidence core did not. He moved suddenly, reaching across the table with an armored command glove. Daniel had been watching his shoulder. He caught the officer's wrist, turned the glove toward the table, and pressed the emergency release beneath the forearm plate. The armored fingers opened. A second touch removed the relay. The entire suit entered diplomatic safety mode and lowered the officer gently back into his chair. Daniel returned the evidence core to its original position before the remaining officers had fully risen. "Please sit down," he said. They looked toward Kale. The Grand Marshal lifted one finger, and the officers obeyed. I stared at the disabled suit. It had been designed to withstand boarding operations, hostile environments, and direct restraint. Daniel had silenced it as casually as a technician correcting a loose connection. Kale's smile narrowed. "You came without guards because you expected this council to protect you." "No," Daniel replied. "I came without guards so you could not call this an invasion." He pushed the evidence core toward the center of the table. "Release the survivors. Withdraw every ship. Surrender the responsible command staff. You have 24 hours. Kale opened a private transmission on his console. The color drained from my assistant's face as the message appeared on the chamber display. Hundreds of surviving colonists were still being held below New Horizon's northern shield zone. Kale looked directly at Daniel. "If you leave this room, those witnesses disappear." Daniel did not look surprised. He checked the chamber clock. "That threat," he said, "just reduced your deadline." 8 hours earlier, I watched Daniel Mercer guide an Earth rescue vessel into the debris field above New Horizon, while every Concord navigator insisted the route was too unstable to enter. Broken civilian transports drifted across more than 40 miles of space, their emergency beacons fading beneath Varkesh interference. Daniel stood at the forward console in the same charcoal gray uniform he later wore inside the peace chamber, studying the wreckage with the calm focus of someone reading a familiar map. "There," he said. "Our scanners showed only metal fragments and engine noise." The human operator narrowed the search frequency by less than 1%, and a small survival capsule appeared between two damaged cargo sections. One life sign remained inside. A sealed command archive rested beside it. "That capsule is inside Dominion recovery space," I warned. Daniel activated the rescue beam. "It is carrying a civilian survivor. Recovery space does not apply." A Varkesh patrol cruiser emerged above the debris field before our beam could secure the capsule. Its commander ordered us to withdraw, and declared the capsule Dominion property. Daniel continued moving our vessel forward. They ignored 20 empty capsules, he said. They only moved when this one appeared. The cruiser extended a stronger tractor beam. The capsule shifted toward it, turning slowly between both ships. Warning lights spread across our bridge as the competing forces strained the rescue system. Release it, I said. A direct contest could damage the capsule. Daniel kept his hand on the controls. That is why they expect us to let go. 3 Varkesh boarding craft attached to our outer hull. Security alarms sounded through the vessel. Daniel transferred the rescue controls to the human pilot and turned toward the connection chamber. Keep the capsule stable. You are the Earth representative, I said. You should remain on the bridge. The visitors are closer than the bridge crew. I followed him to the docking corridor, where 6 armored Varkesh officers entered with restraint devices raised. Their leader demanded access to the rescue controls. Daniel stopped 10 feet from them. Return to your ship. The officer activated his command glove. Daniel stepped outside the forming restraint field, caught the outer wrist plate, and pressed the emergency release. The glove opened. He removed the relay before the armor could compensate. The officer settled into safety mode. 2 others advanced together. Daniel redirected one projector toward the wall sensor, causing the chamber doors to seal around the team. He touched the second suit near the hip control and locked it upright beside the first. The remaining officers lowered their devices. You may wait here, Daniel said, or return peacefully. They chose to wait. Back in the rescue bay, the Varkesh cruiser increased its tractor power. Daniel allowed the capsule to move 3 feet toward them. Their system automatically pushed beyond its normal safety limit to complete the capture. He reversed the polarity of our beam. The Dominion tractor shut itself down, and the capsule moved directly into our protected bay. Inside, a wounded communications officer held a data archive against her chest. Daniel stabilized her oxygen, checked the medical seal, and asked one question. Did Kaelvor authorize the attack? She nodded. The archive contained civilian coordinates, detention records, and the fleet coordination sequence used throughout the New Horizon operation. Daniel copied one narrow section before sealing the evidence for the Concorde. What did you take? I asked. A command key. That is restricted military data. Daniel looked toward the patrol cruiser, still demanding the survivor. So is attacking civilians, he said. At the time, I believed he had copied the code as protection. I did not yet understand that the rescue had already become the first move in a war the Varkesh Dominion still believed it controlled. The Galactic Concorde ordered Daniel Mercer to surrender the New Horizon archive and wait for a formal investigation that could take several months. I delivered the ruling myself inside the central legal chamber, where representatives from 32 systems watched from elevated galleries. Daniel stood beside the sealed evidence core, while the rescued communications officer rested under medical protection behind a transparent wall. The Concorde must remain neutral, I told him. No military action can proceed until every record is independently verified. Daniel looked toward the tactical display, where New Horizon remained a silent point surrounded by Varkesh ships. How many civilians are still being held? We do not have a confirmed number. Then neutrality is a comfortable word for leaving them there. Several delegates objected at once. I reminded him that patience had prevented countless wars. Daniel turned his calm gray-blue eyes toward me. Patience is useful. That is why criminals keep asking their victims for more of it. The chamber fell silent. Chief Administrator Wren ordered Concorde security to escort Daniel to restricted diplomatic quarters and transfer the archive into council custody. 3 officers in reinforced silver armor approached from the western entrance. Daniel raised one hand. Please do not make this harder. Their captain activated a restraint field. Daniel stepped outside its edge before the light closed, pressed the emergency release beneath the nearest forearm plate, and removed the command relay. The armor entered support mode. A second officer reached for Daniel's shoulder. He turned with the movement, touched the hip safety, and guided the suit into a balanced standing lock. The third officer raised his device, met Daniel's eyes, and stopped. Daniel nodded once. Good decision. No one had been harmed, yet the chamber's security detail had lost control in less than 5 seconds. Administrator Wren accused Daniel of threatening the peace process. Daniel walked to the evidence terminal and opened the communication history attached to the investigation order. The process was threatened before I entered this room. A hidden transmission appeared above the table. It had been sent from Ren's private console to a Varkesh relay 20 minutes after the survivor reached Concord protection. The message contained the witness location, the archive transfer schedule, and the names of every officer assigned to guard the evidence. Ren denied sending it. Daniel displayed the authentication pattern. The signature matched the administrator's personal command implant. 2 delegates moved away from him immediately. Ren reached for his wrist console and attempted to erase the record. Daniel crossed the distance, removed the console power cell, and placed it beside the evidence core. "You should have waited for the investigation," Ren said. Daniel looked at the compromised orders glowing above us. "That is what you were counting on." Concord security restored the chamber controls, but this time they surrounded Ren instead of Daniel. I stared at the intercepted transmission and understood that Kael'vor had not merely attacked New Horizon. He had placed influence inside the institution meant to judge him. Daniel resealed the archive and turned toward the tactical display. "The Dominion knows the witness survived," he said. "They know the Concord network is exposed. Their next move will not be diplomatic." An alert sounded across the station. A civilian evacuation convoy near New Horizon had lost contact with its escort. Varkesh warships were moving to surround it. Daniel checked the time. "There it is," he said. "They are done asking for patience." The evacuation convoy vanished from the public tracking grid 12 seconds after the Varkesh warships surrounded it. I followed Daniel Mercer into the Concord Command Center, where a tactical display showed 14 civilian transports trapped between New Horizon and a field of drifting industrial debris. 3 Dominion cruisers held the outer line. 8 smaller vessels moved beneath the convoy, cutting off every recognized escape corridor. Grand Marshal Kael'vor appeared across the central screen before the station could issue a response. "Withdraw your accusations," he said, "and the civilians will be released." Daniel studied the formation without answering him. "They want us to enter through the southern rescue lane," he said. "It is the fastest route," I replied. "That is why they prepared it." He opened a secure Earth channel and spoke 2 words. "Lantern Protocol." Nothing changed on the main display. The 40 human vessels remained too far away to help. Kael smiled. "Earth has 24 hours to reconsider its position." Daniel looked at the station clock. "You have 24 hours to release every prisoner, leave New Horizon, and surrender the officers responsible." Kael laughed. "You are issuing terms while my fleet controls your civilians." "No," Daniel said. "I am recording your final opportunity." A Concord maintenance specialist entered behind us, carrying a sealed power module for the command table. Daniel glanced at the worker once, then stepped between him and the tactical station. The specialist stopped. His uniform shimmered, revealing compact Varkesh infiltration armor beneath the fabric. A restraint device rose from his sleeve. Daniel caught the wrist, turned the device toward the floor, and pressed the emergency release beneath the elbow plate. The projector went dark. The infiltrator tried to activate a second system through his chest relay. Daniel removed the relay and guided the armor into a stable, standing lock beside the wall. The entire exchange lasted less than 3 seconds. "You sent an operative into a room full of witnesses," Daniel told Kael. "That was careless." Kael ended the transmission. The convoy warning intensified. 2 Varkesh ships moved toward the lead civilian transport. Daniel returned to the tactical display and expanded the debris field surrounding the convoy. Fuel containers, medical pods, broken freight shells, rescue capsules. Dozens of objects drifted without power between the transports. "Those are not all debris," I said. Daniel touched the command screen. 52 signals activated at once. The rescue capsules opened, revealing compact human defense craft hidden inside their emergency shells. Their engines had remained cold until the Dominion formation closed around the convoy. The first human line rose between the civilians and the cruisers. A second line cut the Varkesh communication route. The smaller enemy ships attempted to retreat, but emergency towing beams captured their engine fields and placed them into safe shutdown. No fire crossed the civilian corridor. No transport was damaged. One cruiser tried to lock onto the lead evacuation vessel. A human rescue craft attached itself to the targeting array and disabled the external guidance relay. The system entered maintenance mode. Within 90 seconds, every civilian transport reported a clear path. I stared at the hidden human formation surrounding the convoy. You placed defense craft inside rescue capsules. Daniel shook his head. We placed rescue craft where warships would never bother looking. The final Varkesh cruiser lowered its systems. Daniel opened a system-wide channel. The civilians are protected. The evidence is secure. The deadline begins now. A 24-hour clock appeared beside every Dominion vessel in New Horizons space. Kale had tried to use helpless people as leverage. Instead, he had gathered his ships into the exact formation Earth needed to contain them. Grand Marshal Kael'vor requested a final peace meeting with 18 hours remaining on Earth's deadline. The chamber he selected was smaller than the main Concord Hall, with a circular table, 12 Varkesh officers, and dark metal panels covering every wall. I entered beside Daniel Mercer and immediately noticed that the room was drawing nearly 4 times the normal amount of power. Daniel noticed it before I did. He looked once at the ceiling, then at the floor beneath the human seat. This room was not built for diplomacy, he said. Kale smiled from across the table. Privacy requires certain precautions. Privacy does not require a fleet disruption generator. The doors sealed behind us. Every external channel on my wrist console disappeared. The wall panels opened in silence, revealing rows of signal emitters aimed beyond the station. My display identified the system a moment later. It could disable human navigation, communications, and command relays across several thousand miles. Kale folded his hands. Your hidden rescue craft were clever. Cleverness is not strength. Earth has only 40 ships close enough to matter. Daniel sat down. You requested a meeting. State your terms. Withdraw the accusation. Transfer the witness and the archive. Recognize Varkesh control of New Horizon. In return, the civilians will be permitted to leave. No. Kale leaned forward. You should reconsider before your fleet loses power. 12 officers rose together and activated their black command armor. Reinforced gloves closed. Shoulder fields came online. The room generator began to charge. I reached toward my emergency console, but every Concord control was already locked. The peace chamber is the weapon, I said. Kale looked pleased. The table made him believe he was protected. Daniel glanced around the room. No. The table made you place your entire command network within reach. He touched one control on his diplomatic tablet. Every suit stopped. Armored hands opened. Shoulder fields vanished. One by one, all 12 command systems entered diplomatic safety mode and guided their officers back into their chairs. Kale stared at them. What did you do? Your armor accepts safety instructions from the room generator, Daniel said. I changed the instruction before the meeting. Kale reached for his console. An Earth rescue symbol appeared where the Dominion command seal should have been. The generator had not disabled the human fleet. It had opened a direct path into the Varkesh military network. Ship positions unfolded above the table. Supply routes, reserve groups, relay stations, command frequencies. Every secret the trap had been designed to steal now flowed toward Earth. Kale tried to shut the system down manually. Daniel caught his armored wrist, pressed the external release, and removed the command relay. The glove went dark. Sit down, Daniel said. Kale obeyed, though his expression promised another move. I watched the Dominion fleet architecture expand across the holographic display and finally understood why Daniel had agreed to come without guards. He had not entered the chamber hoping to survive the trap. He had entered because he needed Kale to activate it. The Grand Marshal recovered enough confidence to laugh. You still have 40 ships. Daniel studied the captured fleet map. That is what your scanners can see. Kale's smile faded. Daniel looked at the countdown on his tablet. 18 hours remain. Use them wisely. Outside the chamber, the Dominion began preparing to attack the human fleet it still believed was alone. The Varkesh Dominion attacked with 17 hours and 11 minutes remaining on Earth's deadline. 700 warships crossed into the New Horizons system in layered formation, surrounding the 40 human signals displayed on every Concord scanner. I stood beside Daniel Mercer inside the station command center while Grand Marshal Kael'vor transmitted his victory declaration across the public network. Earth mistook deception for strength, Kale said. Your fleet is outnumbered before the first engagement begins. Daniel studied the tactical map without changing expression. He counted the ships. The number is accurate, I said. 40. Human vessels are present. 40 transmitters are present. Before I could ask what he meant, The Dominion fleet completed its containment grid. Varkash cruisers blocked every recognized exit. Battleships formed a wall around the human position. Support vessels activated the disruption frequency captured from the failed peace chamber. The 40 human contacts remained still. Kale ordered them to lower their systems. No response came. He ordered the first formation forward. Every human signal vanished. The command center filled with confused voices. Those contacts had never been full-sized vessels. Each one was a compact rescue beacon projecting the engine profile, mass signature, and communication pattern of a warship. The Dominion had spent hours surrounding machines smaller than cargo containers. Daniel opened a secure channel. Lantern network, reveal. The darkness around New Horizon changed. Mining stations that appeared abandoned activated concealed docking arms. Civilian medical platforms opened protected bays. Weather satellites released compact defense craft from beneath maintenance shells. Rescue carriers emerged from the electromagnetic shadow of the planet's moons. Hundreds of human vessels appeared, not beyond the Varkash formation, but inside it. Dominion ships attempted to retreat, yet every escape corridor was already occupied by human rescue groups. Their command relays filled with contradictory instructions generated through the coordination key Daniel had recovered from the survivor capsule. Some captains were ordered to hold position. Others received navigation routes leading into empty sectors. None could confirm which commands were authentic. You counted ships, Daniel said quietly. You should have counted exits. An alarm sounded behind us. A Varkash special operations team had entered through the lower security passage during the fleet confusion. 6 armored soldiers moved into the command center, followed by an officer carrying a portable network disruptor. Their objective was Daniel. The officer activated the device, and the room's defense systems shut down. Transfer the fleet codes, he ordered. Daniel stepped away from the tactical table. No, 2 soldiers advanced together. Daniel moved between their restraint fields before either completed its charge, removed the relay from the first suit, and pressed the safety control on the second. Both armors entered stable support mode. A 3rd soldier approached from his right. Daniel redirected the alien's command glove toward the portable disruptor and triggered its emergency shutdown. The station systems returned instantly. The remaining soldiers looked from Daniel to the tactical display, where Varkash formations were losing coordination one group at a time. They lowered their equipment. Daniel accepted their surrender, ordered station security to secure them, and returned to the map as if the interruption had been administrative. Across the system, human ships formed protected corridors around civilian zones while isolating Dominion vessels without targeting population centers. Kale's 700 warships were still visible, but they no longer moved as one fleet. I had believed Earth's 40 vessels were waiting to be overwhelmed. The truth was that human strength had been surrounding us for hours, hidden inside every structure the Dominion had dismissed as harmless. Grand Marshal Kale Vor came to the Concord station himself when the Varkash fleet stopped obeying him. His flagship crossed the human containment line under a diplomatic access code, then attached directly to the central docking ring. I watched from the command chamber as the outer doors opened and Kale entered wearing black command armor nearly 8 feet tall. 12 Varkash officers followed him, but his attention remained fixed on Daniel Mercer. "Order your fleet to withdraw," Kale said. Daniel stood beside the tactical table with both hands visible. "Release the prisoners. Lower every Varkash system. Surrender." Kale looked toward the representatives gathered behind the transparent security wall. "You still think this is a courtroom? It will be." The Grand Marshal advanced. Each powered step sent a low vibration through the chamber floor. His armor carried reinforced joints, a personal field, and direct authority over every remaining Dominion command relay. Kale raised one armored hand. "You wanted negotiation because you believed the table made us equal." Daniel watched the shoulder plates instead of the hand. "You wanted negotiation because you believed the table would make us hesitate." Kale activated the field and reached for him. Daniel shifted less than 1 foot. The armored glove passed beside his shoulder. He pressed the emergency release beneath the wrist plate, and the personal field disappeared. Kale turned with assisted speed and brought his other arm across the chamber. Daniel stepped inside the armor's turning radius, touched the shoulder relay, and moved away before the suit completed its correction. One section of the upper frame entered maintenance mode. Cale increased power to compensate. Warning lights spread across his chest. "You prepared for my armor," he said. "Your engineers prepared it for me," Daniel replied. "They installed safety systems." Cale moved forward again. Daniel watched the hips, waited for the suit to transfer its weight, then guided one armored foot onto a floor stabilization mark. He pressed the external balance control. The armor locked one leg to prevent a fall. Cale reached toward the manual override near his collar. Daniel removed the primary relay first. Half the suit went dark. The 12 Varkesh officers raised their restraint devices. Daniel looked at them once. "Do not." They hesitated. Cale ordered them forward. The nearest officer activated his projector. Daniel redirected the field toward an empty wall, removed the power cell, and placed it on the tactical table. A second officer stepped closer. Daniel pressed the safety control on his forearm plate, locking the suit upright. The remaining officers lowered their equipment. Cale attempted one final override through the center of his command frame. Daniel touched the emergency standing lock. Every power joint settled into a balanced position. The Grand Marshal remained upright, fully aware, and unable to advance. The confrontation had lasted less than 20 seconds. Daniel removed the command key from Cale's chest panel and placed it beside the evidence archive from New Horizon. "You are under arrest," he said. Cale stared at the tactical display, where isolated Varkesh formations were lowering their systems one group at a time. "The Dominion will not survive without my command." Daniel opened a system-wide channel and transmitted Cale's capture, the civilian records, and the surrender terms to every Varkesh bridge. "That is the point," he said. Across the map, more ships entered safe mode. I had spent my career believing diplomacy worked because powerful leaders agreed to sit at the same table. Daniel showed me the truth. Diplomacy only mattered when power could no longer be used to escape judgment. Cale Vor's arrest did not end the crisis. It removed the only voice that had kept 700 Varkesh warships moving as one machine, and every ambitious commander tried to replace him at once. I stood beside Daniel Mercer as the tactical display divided into dozens of competing formations. Some captains lowered their systems. Others turned toward neutral colonies and announced that civilian stations would remain under threat until Cale was released. 12 cruisers accelerated toward a medical settlement on New Horizon's outer moon. Another group moved to block a trade habitat carrying more than 30,000 residents. "They are using civilians as leverage again," I said. Daniel watched the command channels separate. "They are proving why they cannot keep those channels." He placed Cale's command key into the Concord console and connected it to the coordination code recovered from the survivor capsule. Human vessels did not pursue the Varkesh formations. Rescue relays, mining satellites, hospital platforms, and navigation beacons began repeating Dominion authentication patterns from every direction. The Varkesh network searched for its legitimate command source and found hundreds of perfect matches. Orders collided. Navigation routes disappeared. Fleet identification systems could no longer distinguish commanders from decoys. Daniel opened a channel to every Varkesh bridge. "Lower your systems and remain in position. Civilian corridors will remain open. Any vessel that threatens a population center will lose access to coordinated navigation." A cruiser captain answered by continuing toward the medical settlement. Daniel touched one control. The cruiser lost fleet guidance, targeting support, and shared sensor data. Its engines remained active, but human rescue craft formed a safety corridor around it and redirected every approach away from the settlement. The other 11 cruisers stopped. "You cannot isolate every ship," another commander said. Daniel looked at the tactical display. "We already did." An emergency alarm interrupted him. Cale's flagship had initiated a command archive purge. A senior Varkesh officer had entered the central core and was attempting to erase the orders, prisoner records, and civilian targeting lists before the trial could begin. Daniel crossed the docking passage with me and 4 neutral security officers following. Inside the flagship command room, the Varkesh officers stood beside a red control column while a countdown moved across the walls. "Release the Grand Marshal," he demanded, "or the evidence disappears." Daniel stopped 10 feet away. "Step away from the console." The officer activated his armor and reached for the final command switch. Daniel watched the shoulder plate, then the power line beneath the wrist. When the armored hand moved, he stepped inside its reach, pressed the external safety release, and removed the command relay. The glove opened. Daniel caught the control key before it reached the console and placed the suit into stable maintenance mode. The countdown stopped with 9 seconds remaining. He transferred the full archive into the Concorde network and broadcast it to every Varkesh ship. Each crew received the same files: Kale's authorization, detention coordinates, false diplomatic orders, and plans to silence the survivors. Daniel added one message: lower your systems, and you will be treated as lawful prisoners. Continue threatening civilians, and your vessel will remain isolated. One ship entered safe mode. Then another. The surrender spread across the system until the tactical map changed from red to white. I had expected Earth to defeat the fleet by destroying it. Daniel achieved something more complete. He removed the lies holding it together, protected every civilian route, and gave every crew a choice their commander had denied them. By the time the final Varkesh vessel powered down, the entire galaxy had heard the truth. The public trial of Grand Marshal Kale Vor began 4 days after the final Varkesh warship entered safe mode, and every inhabited system connected to the Galactic Concorde received the broadcast. I stood at the central witness platform as Ambassador Lyra Van, wearing the same black and silver diplomatic uniform I had worn when I first urged Daniel Mercer to be patient. Across the chamber, Kale sat without command armor, surrounded by neutral security officers and the records recovered from New Horizon. Daniel stood near the public gallery in his charcoal gray uniform, unarmed and silent. The court presented detention coordinates, evacuation logs, false peace proposals, command signatures, and messages proving that Kale had used every negotiation to delay rescue operations while his officers removed evidence. One colony after another submitted additional records. Worlds that had remained silent for years finally spoke because the Dominion could no longer threaten them. Kale listened without regret. This proceeding is political theater, he said. Earth rejected diplomacy and used military pressure to control the outcome. The chief judge turned toward me. Ambassador Van, did Representative Mercer refuse every peaceful resolution? I looked at Daniel, then at the survivors seated behind the transparent protection screen. No, I said. He offered withdrawal, prisoner release, surrender, and a lawful trial. The Dominion rejected every option that required responsibility. Kale leaned forward. He never wanted peace. Daniel finally spoke. Peace without safety is only extra preparation time for the person planning the next attack. A court attendant entered through the Eastern Service door carrying a sealed evidence container. Daniel watched the attendant's right shoulder instead of the case. The uniform matched court records, but the movement did not. The attendant approached Kale, placed the container on the table, and reached beneath its lid. Daniel crossed the chamber before neutral. Security understood the danger. Leave the relay where it is, he said. The disguised loyalist activated a concealed command device. The courtroom doors began to unlock, and one safety control on Kale's restraint chair released. Daniel caught the loyalist's wrist, turned the relay away from the exit system, and pressed the emergency release beneath the false sleeve. A compact armor layer entered maintenance mode. The command device went dark. With his other hand, Daniel closed the evidence container and restored every courtroom lock. Kale rose halfway before Daniel returned the chair control to secure mode. The loyalist remained standing, unharmed and unable to continue. You were offered surrender, Daniel said. Now you will receive judgment. Neutral officers removed the loyalist and secured the device. The interruption lasted less than 10 seconds. The court resumed as though Daniel had corrected a technical failure instead of stopping an escape inside the galaxy's most protected chamber. Kale was convicted and transferred to permanent lawful custody. The Concorde then adopted a new wartime principle. Negotiation could reduce conflict, but it could never erase responsibility for deliberate attacks on civilians. I had once believed Daniel was destroying diplomacy by refusing compromise. I finally understood that he had protected diplomacy from becoming a shield for criminals. The galaxy warned humanity that refusing to bargain would make them dangerous. We were correct about the danger and wrong about its target. Humans negotiated with rivals, soldiers, and honorable enemies. But when someone harmed the defenseless and called delay a peace process, the only terms remaining were surrender and judgment.